Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode one of the Miscast. Um, I'm joined by Stuart, who's with me here for our first episode of this thing. It's basically the same old stuff that we've been doing, but we've got a name now. Stuart, how are you, and what do you think of our new name?
I think the name's brilliant. It's something that expresses Luke's tremendous salt in one simple phrase. Like we know if we say the word miscast, we all know what we're talking about. So I think it's a
We
tremendous
know
idea.
we know who that is. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll get on talking about me and miscasting because our first topic for our first episode is a pretty obvious one, low-hanging fruit. We just ran a tournament, didn't we, Stuart? We ran Release the Beast 2.
We did. Now obviously Trogdor was the main TO for this one,
Proctor.
but
Yeah.
we were Santa's little helpers here, and we did do a lot of the I guess little man work in terms of putting the results in and stuff. But yeah, we ended up having a lot of players. Uh,
104, I
I
think.
don't think it's the biggest TTS event. I think we had. I think there was one hammer time that may have been more than this, but it's definitely up there. I mean, 100 players for any tournament is huge, and for TTS especially. So it's definitely a lot of players. I wouldn't say the meta was necessarily the most diverse. Yeah, I mean, if you just look at this, I mean, it's more diverse than that one event that one hammer time where there was like 10 Zinch Archeons who all ended up in the top 10, um, which in many
I
ways
remember that.
is the best and worst thing to ever happen in Age of Sigmar. I mean, best because I was playing Zinch Archeon, but worse for everyone else. Yeah, it was a rough time. But here, I guess we had a similar setup, right, Luke? We had 19 Stormcast players and 11 Seraphon
Yep.
players. And obviously, both
Yep.
incredibly strong armies. So there was the potential for the top 10 to just be those two armies, right?
Yeah, and you've got the faction pie chart up, but if you went back to the ladder, I think you'll find that we've got plenty of Stormcast and Seraphon in the top 10 that you would expect. But if you scroll through the list, you'll see the Stormcast and Seraphon pretty much here and there consistently all the way through the the table here. So
Mm.
we don't need to paint the picture for everyone. Stormcast and Seraphon are the two strongest armies in the game right now, hands down in terms of power level. And they were the most represented at this tournament. Why do we think that Stormcast in particular, Stuart, are relatively well spread out in the standings here?
Well, I mean, in terms of how they're spread, like there are a lot towards the top, but I think there's also like as you go down, there's also a lot. So, I mean, it's a bit hard to
I
tell with
think they got.
Stormcast like on the stats. Like if I didn't know anything about the army, right, and I was just looking at this table, I don't think you would necessarily say that they're the strongest army, right? Because you've got a lot spread around the top and a lot spread around the bottom, and that might suggest that the army is kind of a bit neutral in terms of win rate. Like players that play it well are going to win a lot, and players that maybe play it less well are going to win less. Uh, but I mean, obviously, we don't think that. Obviously, it's a very strong book. I mean, I still haven't really worked out ways to deal with it. I mean, people have various hypotheses, but it's tricky.
I think the problem that we everyone's had with Stormcast is that Stormcast is a very in people's minds and what it was at this tournament is a very narrow portion of what the book actually is. And obviously, we're talking about dragons, we're talking about fulminators, and we're talking about long strikes, and we're talking about that stupid relictor with the two up rerollable prayer. So and the Knight Draconis, like that sort of. It's already a cookie cutter list, right? It's not been out long this book, and there's already cookie cutter type lists and a couple of variations on it. But there's so much more to that book that we're just not seeing. So I'm hoping that more people just like, okay, here's the strong build in the book, but there's some more flavor that we can do, and we'll come on to that later. But yeah, we've had anything from a 1-4 result with Stormcast to a 2-3 to a 3-3 to a 5-1 with Stormcast. So it's that classic thing where they're the intro army, they're the poster boys. So we got anyone from first time tournament players to seasoned veterans playing them, and they're getting a lot of noise in the stats. So they're always one of these factions that has just like a pretty solid 50% win rate because they've got such a big representation, right? Um, do you have the win rate for Stormcast at this tournament, Stuart?
I do. So here's what I prepared earlier. No. So uh, yeah, you can see. I mean, Stormcast and Seraphon kind of at the same point here, right? Now, this doesn't include every game yet. Like, there's still some games to be played and still some games to be entered here. Shout out to the Wilhelm Scream in the chat for doing this for us. It makes a gigantic difference. But yeah, you can see they're both kind of like at the 56% win rate point, which is good. But it's not like 65 or 70 or 78%. Which is, for those who don't know, Doc when that first book came out, was 78%, which is mind blowing now, right? Compared to what I guess we're used to now. But yeah, they've kind of converged at this 55% win rate point.
Weird because like it's completely okay to complain about the Stormcast list with the dragons and the long strikes and everything, but they're not winning every game, but they're still horrible, right? Because like this is what this win rate shows is that they're winning a lot, but not everything. But it still feels like it's still a sigh, isn't it? It's still like a when you get that draw when you realise you're going to be playing against all those dragons and stuff, even though the stats show that they're beatable.
I think, like on paper, it looks smooth brain, and in terms of army mechanics, it is kind of smooth brain. But it kind of has the same thing as Iron Jaws, where knowing when to push the button is actually quite difficult in the harder matchups. Like, if you're playing Stormcast into Seraphon, knowing when you can go in and that kind of thing can actually be sometimes difficult. And Stormcast still has that major issue, which it's always had, which is it's a mega elite army, even more so now. And as soon as you start losing some bodies and some board control, it is kind of difficult to wrestle it back. So yeah, I think mechanically there's not a lot going on in the army, but yeah, you still got to be able to play the board well to actually stay up on points, because there's not a lot of screens or, I mean, people people who play Stormcast say they have screens, but 2 units of 5 Liberators is not screens. Okay. Yeah, yeah. It's a tricky army in that respect, but obviously, I mean, 6 Vanguard Raptors still is kind of a bit smooth brain shooting, isn't it?
I mean, yeah. It's the thing you don't want to be dead and your army is dead, and that's quite hard to deal with for a lot of people. Um, right, Stuart. I know I've asked you to get your win rate faction chart up, but I do want to quickly go back to the table because we played a 100-person tournament and we ended up with a winner, didn't we? We ended up with an ultimate winner, and it wasn't Stormcast. Who won?
It wasn't, and I'll get his list up quickly, because I think it's a shape. It's the shape of things to come, Luke. This sort of list.
I agree.
I think we're going to see this a lot. I think Beasts of Chaos are going to be a very similar thing. I think Nurgle can run a similar list to this. I mean, Legion of the First Prince, in my opinion, is still the best army, and it runs a list like this. This is the Legion of Crap. That's what this is. It's not Legion of Night. It's Legion of Crap, because my
Well,
lord is a lot of stuff, and not only is it a lot of stuff, it's a lot of stuff that can kind of go wherever it wants. You can put stuff off the board with Legion of Night, push stuff off the board with the grave sites. But I have to say, obviously we cast the finals. I have to say Nikita played like an exceptional game. This is not an easy army
absolutely.
to play at by any means. This is an
It's
army
quite
that,
nuanced, isn't it?
yeah, this is an army that does very little damage aside from the Graveguard. And you will lose every trade aside from the Graveguard. But yeah, if you can just manage to stay up on points, then you can get the victory in the end. I will say,
Have a lot of
he
shit to trade though, don't you?
he
You're like that guy with the camel at the bazaar. You've got a lot of
yes.
shit to trade with this
Like
list.
he's
Yeah,
trading down every time, but he has so many chips to trade with that eventually he's
yeah.
gonna win the trade war. It's a bit bizarre. Like, yeah, it's like you have your trading units and he has his trading units, but he just has like he almost feels like he has 10 more trading units than you. I don't even think that's an exaggeration. Like, I think that's actually since all the units are coming back and that kind of thing, that is actually the sort of advantage he has in the trading war. Um, but yeah, you still got to
Quickly
play it
explain what
well.
we mean by training, Stuart.
Well, basically, so I mean, in the finals we saw it was like, the first line you have like, your terrible screens, so your skinks versus your other terrible screens, so probably the direwolves, right? And then, since the Seraphim player had shooting and Nikita doesn't, then the wolves lose that matchup, even though they are better than the skinks. And then you have your next matchup, which is like skinks versus like your next screen, and then Nikita wins that one. So basically, he traded like 1 for 2, right? Like he's lost 2 of his units, but he got like the unit of 10 skinks. And the bizarre thing is, if he does that, he kind of wins the trade. Like that's what I kind of discovered in the final. It's like, okay, Nikita's trading down here. This looks really bad for Nikita. And then it was like the next turn we'd be like, wait, hold on. Like him killing those 10 skinks is actually huge. Like, and it doesn't matter that he lost those 2 units because he has another 8 units that do the same thing. So yeah, it's the trade war that he really wins, I think.
It is the trade war is definitely how this things works, and I do recommend people to go and watch the game that Stuart and Steve streamed because both Nikita and Tavi, who was Nikita's round 6 opponent, played an absolute blinder, and it was a great game with basically, in my opinion, Tavi's list, Kroxagor maybe a question mark. I think 1 unit of Kroxagor, yes. Two was a bit memey, but Thunder Lizard Seraphon, I think one of the strongest armies in the game in the top three probably, and then Nikita's list being kind of like the meta answer to those sort of lists at the moment, with the answer to the Stormcast and the Seraphon. So it's two high-profile players, two high-profile armies, and it was a showcase of a game. So definitely go watch it.
I think also it's important to touch on Manfred in this list because in the game that we watched, like he did everything. Like basically all of the damage that was done on the board was instigated by Manfred, and it's really something that Tavi could not deal with because, I mean, unfortunately for Tavi, Nikita did roll Mystic Shield I think every turn, so Manfred was just walking around on a 2-up save, and Tavi didn't have anything better than Ren 1, so basically he could not hurt Manfred at all. And like, although Manfred doesn't do like mega damage, he does like okay damage, even with the damage -1, which does cut his damage output like in half. It's still like okay damage, and also he obviously gives out the +1 to hit and wound aura and potentially the +1 attack as well. So yeah, there's lots of things he can do, even if he's not doing the most amount of damage. And of course, he always has the potential to teleport. And with pinions, he's also moving like 22 inches or something. So it's like there's so many things that this unit can do for 380 points. It's actually kind of insane. Um, it was good to
Great
see someone use
utility,
him properly. Yeah.
and he's one of those pieces that causes like it's really good at the mental game of Warhammer, because it's so annoying when you got this guy that's charging you and you think, oh, I want to deal with that, but if I do, it's just going to teleport over here, and you need to think about where it's going to be, and it gets a lot of its, it chooses Manfred chooses every matchup he wants, right? Because if it's not a matchup he doesn't want, he's not there, he teleports out, and that's can be quite triggering to play against. I've played against Nikita running his Manfred, and it's like, oh god, can this guy just piss off? Can he go away? And then you might make a few mistakes because of the way that the Manfred is like that annoying fly that you want to swat away, um, but a fly with quite a lot of damage, considering it's not insignificant what Manfred can do. So huge congratulations to Nikita for taking out the tournament. And with Soulblight, not probably what we tipped. We probably tipped either Stormcast or Seraphon, not the
Mm.
Soulblight. Yeah, it was a great thing to watch. Nikita getting his 6-0. Are there any other notable performances that we want to point out, Stuart? Maybe in the top 10?
I have to talk about Luke Morton's list. Because because I said it was awful in the list review, and I'm going to stand by that. I think this is a terrible list, and I think he thinks it's a
Right.
terrible list as well. But uh, I think KO. Now, if we look at the win rate stats, okay, it's not looking too good. Okay, down here, all right, it's at the 30%. But I haven't done the stats on this, but I wonder, Luke, what is the win rate of armies bringing a flare pistol versus armies not bringing a flare pistol? Because I think I have a conspiracy theory that this adds 20% win rate to your army. Okay, so please bring this.
What is this, Stuart? What does Flare Pistol do?
This gives you reroll to hit against a unit with your whole army once per game. Okay, now if you're running Sky Wardens that do mortals on sixes, reroll to hits is pretty good. Okay, and even if you're running an Ironclad, right, reroll to hits is pretty good. Now also he's also Barrack 3, which I think is also something that we should see other people go into. The time of Zilfin is over, okay, because we now have this thing called Alpha Beast Pack, right? He doesn't have it in this list, but I know in the list that he actually thinks is good, he runs 2 Ironclads and Alpha Beast Pack. But basically, with Alpha Beast Pack, you can do the whole like pre-game. I get to move the whole board, even though it's D6 inches, because you can fly high when you move D6 inches, which is complete nonsense. But it is something that they allowed in the game for whatever reason. And yeah, I think it means that Zilfin is not something that you have to use. And yeah, the list, I guess, it's pretty simple, this Luke's list here. But basically, it's just Skywarden, Spam, and Ironclad, and then a few heroes. Now, the Navigators are great in this manner, right? They're, like, not only is it the Flare Pistol that's a thing, it's that half move on, like a unit like Dragons, for example, right? I mean, even if you like hero phase moving, if you're, half move twice, so you're moving 3 inches, then you drag, like your unit of 4 dragons can move 6 inches with a hero phase move and a normal move, right? Which is like, it's pretty insane. It's not much else in the game that does something like that. So, and also, I believe it's 30-inch range, the Navigator debuff. So
Yep.
it's
It's very long.
it's very strong. Yeah, I think it's
So
very strong unit.
this army outranges most armies in the game, and when you're fast and you've got the range advantage, a player like Luke that excels at the MSU flying unit spam, it's kind of his signature sort of list type. Um, Again, he can pick apart a load of stuff, and this list does more damage than it looks like it should when he's a jammy git that rolls a lot of sixes. So, um, congratulations to Luke going 5-1 with a crap list. It's what we like to see. Um,
I will say,
the
like,
other
of those games, I think he had a few easy ones. I think he would admit that he had some hard ones as well. Like his last round one was legitimately hard. He played Stormcast and
against
was really
Jorge,
close.
yeah, for the
Yeah,
Stormcast, it
but
was a great
he
game.
also did
Yeah,
play Foxes, which for KO is like easy mode.
an auto win. Yeah,
And then he also played Cruel Boys, which is also easy mode. So, um, I think
'cause they're both shooting armies that don't like being shot, and
yes. Yeah,
yeah,
the Fox one
and
is very
Luke
funny
wins
because
those
it's like
games.
the Fox
Yeah,
one is just very funny because the Foxes come up and they're like, okay, I'm zoning you out from combat, and the KO is like, okay, you're dead. Like that's pretty much how
I
that
have
matchup
shot you.
goes.
Yeah,
I don't care about combat. You are now dead. Yeah, I mean, pretty much with that Lumineth matchup, as soon as the 30 Sentinels go down, there's just no hope. So I'm pretty sure that's what happened, and I think that one was very quick. But yeah, I mean, I think he's still done well, to go 5-1 with this list, which is not only like an army that's not necessarily in the top tier, but I mean, he would say it's not an optimized version of that army either. So I think he's done very well. Yeah.
absolutely. And just looking at that top 10, apart from Luke and apart from Nikita the winner, All the other list types that we're seeing are the ones that you would expect there with
Yes.
City, Seraphon, Stormcast, and Legion of the First Prince. It doesn't leave a lot to the imagination apart from Luke and Nikita there, which is I think that's an important thing to showcase about the meta at the moment. That they're definitely archetypes of lists that you need to beat. Um, but Stuart, in the 4-2 bracket, there's another hero running a shit list that I want to point out. And that's you, Stuart. You ran Gloomspike Gits to a 4-2. How was your time at the tournament?
Um, I do want to just quickly show my list as an example of not how to play this army. Because the base components are there, but it's just like I've just burnt the coffee a bit here. I think. I have to say, the Skitterstrand of Ragnarok might be in competition for the worst War Scroll in Age of Sigmar. Like, I actually think
I
it's
think it's
like,
him and the Tree Lord. I think it's him and the Tree Lord,
yeah, I actually think
personally.
he's on another level of bad. Like, and
Yeah.
we're planning to do a Beasts of Chaos video as well, and like, yeah, all the Beasts of Chaos monsters are awful, and they're all better than him.
A
Okay,
lot.
so, by a lot. Okay, like the Gorgon is way better than him. Okay, thing is, right, like you got to think about it. Is I've spent 720 points trying to make this guy better, right? Because normally the problem is he comes up outside of 9 and I have to roll a hard 9, right? And I have to have a hero in range for him to get the reroll. Okay, but now I've brought in Kragnos, so the idea is he can charge 3d6, so he should be able to get in, right? But the problem is like he's just at this damage level where it's like, okay, he does mortal wounds, right? And you get the reroll against priests and wizards, so you get reroll hits against priests and wizards, which is great. Except like what you actually want to do with him is kill a screen, and he cannot kill a screen because he does mortal wounds. Like it just doesn't do what he's supposed to do. So he's awful for 180 points. And also I found that there's not really any point in bringing this many Spider Riders. So you should just bring the 3/5s. Um, and then probably ally in at least 300 points of Iron Jaws is what I'm thinking lately. It's not that what I
Rock
played was
Trogs? You don't think Rockgut Trogoffs or anything would do you good?
no, because you just compare like 3 Rock Gut Troggots to 3 Gore Grunters, and it's like just go with the Gore
But you
Grunters.
can't do that. You can't do that, Stuart, because then you put the Gloomsky Gits Battle Tome in the bin, where
So
probably it belongs. But
so actually, I've actually been Luke Morton has been playing my list, which is hilarious. Like he thought it was bin, and then I started winning with it a little bit, and then he started playing with it. And it's like this is not actually that bad, is it? We're both a little bit bored of the list now. I have to say, like it's not the most interesting list to play, unfortunately. But the change we did
boils
is
down to
we took the
Ragnos with
Skitter
Bridge,
Strand.
right?
Yeah, I mean it's just that. But we took the Skitter Strand and 2 units of Spider Riders out, and we put in a War Chanter with the Fix and Beat, so that gives Kragnos an extra D3 heal, which is great. And we also put in 3 Gore Grunters and 5 Boingrots. Now, the Boingrots are actually quite good. It's definitely better than 5 Spider Riders because it can actually do some damage. It's more survivable. I know it doesn't come back, but like really what the 5 Boingrots are there to do is what the Skitterstrand of Ragnarok is supposed to do, which is like
That screen.
yeah,
Yeah.
you just kill the unit of 10 dudes because like they're awful, but like they will just kill like 10 dudes with the buffs. So yeah, that's what we put them in there for. And then obviously 3 Gore Grunters, like even in Gits, still like does make damage. So that's what they're in there for. So yeah, those are the sort of changes we've put in. Now in terms of like how the tournament went, my 2 losses were against Seraphon, because I forgot what Curse did. Yeah, I don't know what happened to me that game, but I did not play that game well. And actually, after I lost that game, I was like, I'm gonna go 1-5. That's what I thought. It's like this list is terrible. Like I'm gonna go 1-5. But I started winning again after that, and then in round 6, I drew dragons, and yeah, I mean obviously that's not a good matchup, but and the reason
Like
it's not good, the reason it's not good.
dragons with a big unit in a Nitroconis so we can double shoot the mortals into Kragnos and just go bye bye.
Yeah, well, that was the problem. Like, because I sat down at the start
Yeah.
of the game, I'm like, okay, so if he puts the Prime and all the dragons into Kragnos just with shooting, he's dead. So
Yeah.
I decided, because he gave me the first turn, I decided that I'm going to go in and try and kill 4 dragons. Now, that's not a likely scenario, right? Because obviously I have to roll a 20 with the Kragnos charge. And I then also got to, like, kill some in combat, right? Now, unfortunately, what happened, Luke, is I rolled a 2 and a 1 with the Kragnos charge, so he did 2 mortal wounds. And then
Not a lot, is it?
in combat, he also whiffed. So I killed 1 dragon, and then he died.
That's 9 wounds, Stuart. Yeah.
And then he died, and I lost the game. So
I mean, I played Kragnos quite a lot, and for someone who's on 2s and 2s a lot of the time,
yeah,
that thing can still whiff. I think
yeah.
you really need rerolls of 1s to guarantee damage these days because dice are just cruel things, Stuart. They're little bastards.
I think his best attribute now is just the cap 30. Like, I think that's what you use him for now. Is you just sit him on an objective and you go like, okay, I'm gonna be up on the primary game, and then we're just gonna go equal on the battle tactics, and then I'll win this way. And that's how I won a lot of my games. Like, just stand still and do nothing with Kragnos, and just heal him with spells and stuff. Because it's that
Why
thing
not?
of like,
Like, okay.
like, okay, I could shoot all the wizards off, and like that would stop him healing so much. But like, there's not many armies that can shoot the wizards off and then still have enough output and enough time to also kill Kragnos. So you're in this weird situation where it's like, okay, I gotta kill Kragnos, so do I shoot my entire army at Kragnos? And what happens if I don't kill him and then Stuart gets Life Swarm and 2 heroic recoveries off? Well, then he's back to full HP and then I've lost the game. So it's a bit awkward to play against. Yeah, now one thing I would say as well is that the Spider sub-faction is just not worth it.
Oh, nah, it's just not, is it?
Like, all
It's
of the
just really
sub-factions
not.
in Gloomspite Gits are at, like, another level of just not worth it. Like, they're all just tax. Like, I mean, even the Spider one, you don't actually have to take the command trait or the artifact, but, like, you are going to take a Spider Fang General to make your stuff battle line, right? And yeah, if you do that, like, I would just rather have had Master of Magic on this web spinner than Prophet of the Spider
Okay,
God.
what rules do you get by going the Grim Scuttle tribe?
Well, okay, so now this is my first. I had played one game with this army before the tournament, right? Now, I did not know that the web spinner's command trait and artifact and the moon all do the same thing. They all do exactly the same thing. They all make your mortals go on 5s and 6s instead of 6s, right? So the command trait lets you do that once per game for your whole army. The artifact is like wholly within 12, and then the moon is like where the moon is, right? So yeah, I was under the impression that they all did different things for some reason, because that's what every other army does. But Gits is like, it's like this journey through just overlapping rules and keywords that don't work and war scrolls that don't make any sense. It's tremendous.
It is tremendous.
Please give us a White Dwarf
It-
update on the level of Beasts of Chaos. You know, just make the Loon Shrine, just pop everything out and give Scragrot Warmaster. That's all we need. Just like,
Nah, we're fixing armies just by giving the entire army.
hey, I'll
Activity
take
now.
that.
That's how we
I'll
do
take
it.
that. You know, give make Loon Shrine. Just give my whole army Bravery 10 while it's alive. I'm up for that.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay.
Right, Stuart. So you went 4-2.
Yeah.
What was your favourite game out of your 6?
Um. Oh, that's a
And you can
difficult
talk about
question.
players there. It doesn't have to be about lists.
Uh.
Because you played what was it? Echo Papa was running Stormcast. You played against Ender Benway, Seraphon. You played against Peter Dixon with Seraphon. You played against Cruel Boys. You played against Missoura with
Oh, it
his
was the Cruel
Doc, and
Boys
you played
game. Yeah,
against
it was the Cruel Boys game.
Mathmallow.
That was a great game. I
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoyed the Cruel Boys game. I mean, it wasn't Warhammer. I mean, we both admitted that it's not Warhammer. Like,
What happened?
it's basically like one of us is gonna die at about turn 3, and we just had to figure out who it was because, like, I mean, the Bolt Boys just like one bang Kragnos, and Kragnos just one bangs the Bolt Boys. I mean, even the Spiders just one bang the Bolt Boys. So like, it was literally a case of like, okay, I think in that game, he gave me the first turn, and then I did nothing. Um, Now, I have to say, Luke, as the tournament went on, so I rolled bridge turn one every game, right? Because, why not? And the games where I did roll bridge turn one, I lost. And then the games where I didn't, I won. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down.
Interesting.
Because I took the bridge and entered Kragnos into something, and then he died. So I think as the tournament went on, I decided that the best play with the list is just stand and do nothing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, it's just the best play with
yeah.
the list. And then you can use the
This is what
bridge.
you realise when you play Gargants
Yeah,
for a little while.
it's just
That
Gargants.
rule is
It's yeah, it's just Gargants. Like it really is just
that rule is
Gargants.
too powerful, and the reason why it's a bad rule is because it punishes you for actually doing anything. It punishes you for trying to play the game, because the most optimal thing is always just to stand still, and that's a sad thing to do with a 720 point model. But you did it, Stuart, to great effect, and congratulations on your 4-2.
But yeah, the Cruel Boys game was tremendous because it was just a bit of a cat and mouse. And I have to say, Luke, I did not roll well with Kragnos in combat the whole tournament, but I rolled really well with his yelling, like really well. Like in that Cruel Boys game, he definitely did more
Yeah.
damage yelling at shit than he did actually hitting stuff. It was just that situation where like I put Kragnos in the middle of his army. Kragnos mega whiffed in combat, by the way. He didn't kill his Sludge Raker, which was just like I couldn't even believe that with the charge and combat. It was like, what are you doing, bro? Twos and twos. Come on. But he didn't kill him. He didn't kill him, and obviously that's a big thing not to kill. But then Kragnos didn't die because my opponent also whiffed, so he had a bit of a counter whiff. And then yeah, he just started yelling at shit, and I think he killed like 4 Bolt Boys, a unit of Hobgrots, and like a hero, just yelling. so
That's a lot of yelling, man.
yeah, because it's just like the battle shot. Once they take a couple wounds, the Cruel Boys just start running. So yeah, but I had a
I
fun
mean, they're
tournament,
orcs. They have a bravery. Yeah.
and it was good to bring Kragnos and see what he can do. I don't know if I'll play the list long term because I don't know if it necessarily has the strategic depth, but it's definitely fun and look cool on the table. Yeah.
Right, Stuart. We've talked about Luke. We've talked about you, and then the theme of this has sort of been um, suboptimal lists, bringing them to a tournament and trying to test your medal against hardcore meta and in a tournament setting and try and do well with it. Um, and that brings. I want to go on to the other side of that story, Stuart, where I know someone else who tried to bring a suboptimal
Yeah.
list and do well with it, but didn't.
Okay, Luke. So
Um,
let's have a little counseling session here. Okay. So
yeah,
obviously you went one
yeah.
and five. Now you didn't play the last game, so I mean there's a bit of an
I went
asterisk
one and
there.
four. I went 1 and 4,
Now
which
I
is
don't know
still
if
not
that's just because you wanted the asterisk or who knows. But this is
something came up with work, but
no,
yeah.
that's cool. So this is the list you ran. Now obviously you and I have played this matchup a bunch of times before this tournament. I actually played you with the Kragnos Spiderfang list before the tournament.
I wiped your ass with it, man.
You
And this
did
is the
because
thing.
you rolled 2 sixes with the
Yeah,
Stormtrooper.
with dragons. And
Yeah,
so not only did I realise that I put the absolute casino in the war song, having played with and against a load of dragons, you also realise dragons are also quite casino
they're
too.
very casino.
So
Yeah, yeah.
I've just doubled down on it. But the headline is that before the tournament, I'd got quite a few practice games in with this list, and I was beating Seraphon and Stormcast. I beat Stuart's Kragnos list. I beat that same Cruel Boys list that you were talking about, and I was like, this has got legs. And then we did our list review show, and I think the thing that you said, Stuart, was this list can beat anything and lose to anything. And I proved you right. It can lose to absolutely anything because I lost 4 times. Um, and by the end of the tournament, I wasn't exactly in and amongst the top tables playing against Metafilth. I was playing heroic things like Slanesh, and yeah, this is unfortunately my road. This tournament was a game of dice and how punishing they can be. Um, and I think they've pretty this tournament has given raise to a few things. My experience of this tournament, it gave raise to the emotional support channel, which you can now find available in the Release the Beast Discord, and it gave way to the name of this podcast, the Miscast, because I need to talk about that Warsong Revenant, Stuart. Um,
Yep.
I thought I was being clever by going Gladeless and putting Spell Singer and Spirit Stone save on her. So I got a 3 cast out of her, and she's got a really big range on her spites, 15-inch aura out of a spell portal. That's a whole army. It sounds really good. You need to play the War Song with the Naru artifact so you don't miscast. Right? That's like without a shadow of a doubt.
I think I did actually. So I played Matt Mallow round six, who's obviously kind of like the OG Sylvaneth player, right? And I did talk to him about your list, and he didn't say it was bad, but I think the thing that he said he would change was the Spirit Stone save. He would go the artifact that just lets you auto cast one of the spells, right?
Yeah,
So you auto
yeah,
cast Throne of Vines. I mean, I know then you're gonna need something else to put the portal up. Um, or I think he said go Cogs, and then just like get the
yeah,
branch wraith to cast Cogs on him, and then do that. At least you got a bit more
definitely.
reliability. But I think even then, the null root thing where you roll 3d6, and then discard one, so you can always like kind of dodge the miscast unless you roll the 1 in 216 and get 3 1s. But most of the time, you won't. Um,
But
Whereas, as you found, Luke, 1 in 36 actually happens a fair amount, doesn't it?
it happens 4 times in 3 turns. Work that one out.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
I miscast an awful lot this tournament, and it's a very interesting rule. And I think it's a rule that single-handedly changed the meta more than a lot of rules that were introduced in AOS 3, because we were talking about the Magic Dom meta in AOS 2, weren't we? And I think it's safe to say we're not necessarily in that meta anymore.
No,
And I
I think
think
that's long gone. Yeah.
that that one rule is probably the leading reason as to why that's the case. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. No, I think they've also nerfed a lot of the armies that were kind of dominant,
Yeah.
regardless. Like, I mean, there were a couple armies that had loopholes. Like Siege kind of had a loophole. Not only
Oh,
because
a
they
big
could
one.
Destiny Dice stuff, but also like they get the reroll cast with the Blue Scribes, or even just the Host Duplicitous command trade. So there was kind of some stuff there to help them. And obviously Techless has a way around it because he doesn't roll dice, which is, I mean, just as a side note, Luke, I don't know if you played
Fuck
against
that guy.
LRL in real life, but I still think the thing where like Techless goes, okay, I'm gonna cast 4 spells, and then he just tells you the spell you cast. I still think that's just like the dumbest play experience ever. It's just like your opponent goes, okay, I'm casting Total Eclipse. It's cast on a 10, and then you get to roll the dice. It's like some weird, like, it almost feels like some, like a government sent you like a tax bill in the mail, and it's just like, pay it now. It's like it's just I still don't understand the whole techless thing where it's just you don't even roll dice. But yeah, obviously that was a way around
Spells,
the miscast thing. Yeah.
and when all of those spells are also more taxes because you got to pay 2 CP tax to do a CP, and everything's minus bravery 2, and then everything runs away. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
screw Techless. But him not being here, Nagash dropping off a bit and being their nose inch, I thought this is why I'm going to bring a list like this, because this list,
Mm.
you know, obviously is trying to do magic damage with the War Song, and get buffs off and do tricks like that. And I thought I'm not going to be just unless I get a croak, I'm not just going to be dispelled off the board or unbowed off the board. I have a chance. But spell casting is, you know, you can look into the statistics of 2 dice, and it's really really interesting. But it's spell casting is simply never ever going to be as reliable as winning the game through the movement phase, the shooting phase, or the combat
Mm.
phase. It's the least reliable phase to try and have your win condition. And that's what I learned. I learned that this list is a very, very narrow win condition, that you can lose yourself without your opponent doing anything. If you do get that miscast or you don't get Throne of Vines off and it all goes wrong, you've you've lost yourself the game without your opponent giving the opponent even the opportunity to make a mistake, or you can outplay your opponent. If you don't get that win condition on those two dice, then it's over. And I'll be pleased to say I'll never play this list again
um,
because of that.
can you can you just give us a quick review? So how did Horrorghast go? That's what I'm interested to know. Did that do anything?
No, did absolutely nothing.
Okay,
Basically useless. Tax of points.
all right.
And so was pretty much the skull route because of
Yeah, yeah.
its short range. Yeah. I think Horrorghast came in once, and it was the game that I won. I was playing against Lock W, who's an absolute gent, and he had a big unit of 10 protectors from the Stormcast, right? Great unit, by the way. He had Yndrasta behind them, like healing them, and he was valuing them. It was like a never-ending anvil. It was really good. But I managed to finally get rid of them by doing, I think, 3 damage and then Horrorghasting them, and then he rolled the 5, and then they all ran away. That that was the one thing that it all did good.
But not
The
worth the
rest of it,
points.
I didn't even. Well, I think that was the only game I cast it.
Okay. Mm.
I would found myself thinking that a Mystic Shield or an Arcane Bolt or a Tree Song is going to be more useful from that second War Song than the Horrorghast. To be perfectly honest with you, it's one of those uber situational things, and a lot of the stuff in the meadows is you know Horrorghast means that you can't be Battle Shock immune in the Battle Shock phase and makes D3 more models run. Um, but you need to do damage to something to make it run. Unless you're playing against those orcs where they're bravery 4 and you just need to do 1 damage to something and then they're pretty much running if they can't be Battle Shock immune. You need to do damage and have the Horrorghast off.
Yeah. But then also
And
not do enough damage to just kill the unit anyway. You know.
yeah, so this is what I mean. Either the unit was dead or I didn't do enough damage to trigger a Battle Shock. Um, so Horrorghast is a no from me. Um, Another thing that's a no for me is anything more than 10 Dryads. The difference between 20 Dryads and 10 Dryads
Yeah.
is, yeah, there's no point in having them being 20, and there's no
But
point of having 2 units of 20.
it's interesting because before the tournament, I was trying to convince you to not go battle regiment and just run like more
As
tens
many
of
Dryads as
dryads and
possible.
stuff, and
Yeah,
just kind of get some
yeah.
more board presence. Do you think that would have helped in the games that you played, or was it
I
just
didn't struggle for board presence. Board presence
okay?
was the one thing I had, and I was able to teleport things, and I was able to push things out, and my screening worked well. Um, my war song only died once, and that's when I got double turned by dragons, thanks to the lovely Alan Spogmut job. Um, but um, she didn't die once because the dryads were able to screen. But that's not how you win the game. Screening a card, and this is the thing.
Mm,
Unless you're playing one of those battle plans where there's a home objective, you invest so much away from the objectives. You've got a war song that's rooted to the spot because of Throne of Vines, 20 or 40 dryads around them, the branch wraith hiding in the trees with her. You've got like 600, 700 points of your army at the back of the board, not contributing to the game, not contributing to those 3 objectives in the middle. Um, and then your opponent can just kill the stuff that's ventured out, can kill those tree revenants and kill those stormdrake guards, and they've won the game. Because at that point your castle doesn't matter, you know. And it helped me really think about list building, running this list. Um, but what I did get out of it, Stuart, was so much fun. I mean, anyone that's watched me play knows that I'm a self. I think I'm a master of salt at this point here, right? I've got that sweet spot of yelling and swearing, but not going too much. And that's fun. Yelling at dice, that's part of why we do this hobby, isn't it, Stuart?
I have to say, one of my greatest regrets in life is that I didn't get to see that game that you and Anthony Feith Johnson played, which was Slanesh versus Sylvaneth, because from what I hear, it was truly a duel of champions.
I'll do some snapshots of that game because it is worth talking about. And Anthony is an absolute hero, and we got on like a house on fire, and it was really great. Um, Sigvald comes on in Lurid Haze, gets his charge off into my dragons that I Alpha struck.
Okay, yeah,
Does zero damage.
yeah. Okay,
Zero. He rolled
yeah.
a 10 on the charge. He had 10 attacks.
Ah,
Sigvald did 0 damage. Um, Dragons then do 0 damage to Sigvald. Um,
Okay.
this was the game that I miscast 4 times in 3 turns, and that was against Anthony. Um, and Stuart, you have 20 Dryads and a Warsong Revenant versus 5 Sickblade Sleekers. How long do you reckon that combat lasts?
What, 20 Dryads and 5 True Revenants versus 5 Sleep Blades? Is that the combat?
Yeah, that was the combat.
Uh, I think a while actually. Hold on.
It lasted the whole game. Five
Yeah, I was
turns it
gonna
went
say.
in
I was
round
gonna say.
one.
I think
It
actually a
lasted the
while.
whole game.
Okay, not 5
It
turns, but
lasted.
like, yeah, that would still take a while though.
It lasted the whole game. It's not killing each other. And
Jeez.
Anthony won't mind me saying it. He rolled bad. I rolled bad, but I rolled worse. And that's how the game went basically. But
Yeah.
anything that everything that completely disrupts your plan or makes you go, oh, what the fuck, or like the odds of that happening were like 1 in 3,000. All of those things happened in that game to everyone, and it was like a slow car crash, and it was beautiful to behold for the spectators, I'm sure. Um, yeah, so a really good learning experience this list, and it, it's not put me off Sylvaneth. I'm still running Sylvaneth, but I'm running a much different list now. I'm running Winterleaf with the Lariel, which is what you said all along, but I'm just going to ignore that fact. So
It's all right. We've all got to come to our own conclusions at the time we come to them. So that's all right. Okay, just quickly, I do want to just give kind of an overview of the faction stats. Because we did touch on Stormcast and Seraphon, but we haven't looked at the other ones yet. Now, there's only 2 Daughters of Cain players, so I think we can probably ignore this one a little bit. But the Legion of the
did
First
very
Prince
well.
one, I think is relevant. I think
I think we had 4 to 5. I think we had 5 Legion of the First Prince players out of 100, which is 5% representation, which is not bad for an army that's hard to collect and not so common, right?
yeah. Now I think that this army is very broken.
Me
Like,
too.
I think
Me too.
I think it's a little bit silly that your whole army can sort of get a 5-up ward. The control elements and the soup are kind of ridiculous. I mean, so obviously Sam Morgan, friend of the show, also on Team Australia, he sent me a list the other day which had 18 Blood Crushers in it in Legion of the First Prince, because for some reason they get to be Battle Line Legion of the First Prince now. And
How?
if you
What?
make the Skullmaster the general,
Oh, good lord.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he sent me that, and I'm just like, you know what? That's not a bad list. And the fact that it's not a
Well,
bad list when that War Scroll is awful, right? The Blood Clutcher War Scroll. That War Scroll just doesn't make any sense. Um,
well, that's just a 5-up ward on a cheap efficient wounds, right?
yeah,
That's all
it's
that is.
like they're like Dragon
Yeah.
Ogres, but like a bit more tanky, and they do mortals on the charge. And it was like, that's not a bad list. And I think the problem he's had with testing it is that you can kind of build any list in the army, and as long as it doesn't include too many bloodthirsters, it's going to be good, basically. I mean, because if you
I want
put 3
to get you
bloodthirsters
there
in there,
because
it will be
I want
bad.
to get you there
Yeah.
because there was a player in this tournament, Zeno, my round one opponent, who ran Legion of the First Prince with 3 bloodthirsters in it,
Yeah, I
and
don't
he
think
did
that's
like
good.
well, I think he went like 4-2 or like
I,
3-3. Like he did well. Yeah, he did really well. He went 3-3, but he did beat 3 TOs. I think he beat me. He beat Hippie. Um, oh, he didn't beat the third TO, but he had a pretty good run.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah.
I know he's probably gonna watch the pod. Okay, so I mean, he did go 3-3, but like, just to get his list up. Yeah, I do think. I know a lot of people in America run the Bloodthirsters in Legion of the First Prince, and I just think they're like a touch unreliable, maybe. Oh, he's only got 2.
Better
Yeah,
than them, man.
that's not the end of the board. I mean 3.
No, he's got Scarbrand. That's 3,
I Yeah, okay.
and
But
Bellacore, who's a
I
bloodthirster but black.
yeah. No, I don't like this list, but I also don't think he's necessarily trying to run like
He
the filth of the
he
filth, is
played
he?
it well. He played it well. It was his first tournament, and he played it well, and he surprised a few people. So well done to Zeno and this list. But I know I've derailed you from your point because Legion the First Prince is broken.
It's
Is what our
it.
point is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe broken's a bit far, but definitely like you've sort of got an advantage, just off the bat. I think because Be'lakor in Legion of the First Prince, um, it's got to be up there with one of the most underpriced things ever, right? 360 points for something that basically can't die, can summon every turn if you roll okay, does decent damage in combat, has obviously his
Master ability is
disable.
this. Yeah. I mean, I think that was showcased really well in the last game the last round. It was Philip's game, wasn't it? The second place match.
Yeah, yeah,
Philip versus was it Kalanos running the big baddie version of the Legion the First Prince list. Um, and Philip said in this game summary that he got his big unit of dragons, his 680-point unit of dragons, got double turn Be'lakor, which was like, whoa, this is a taste of my own medicine type thing. That's a really strong ability, right? Especially now
yeah.
with the meta at the moment.
Yeah, it's that classic play of you go first with the Legion of the First Prince, and then you disable your opponent's big bad unit, and then hope you can give them the double turns. You get the 2 consecutive turns, and he did that against Philip and got the 4 dragons out of the game for 2 turns, which is like really good. Yeah. But then once that happens, and I mean this is how the game kind of goes with Legion of the First Prince, which is why I really think they're strong. Is like, okay, like Philip gets to play the game starting on turn 3. Like that's kind of how it went down, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, because just you get disabled for 2 turns. And then Philip was like able to claw it back. Obviously he had another threat in the 4 fulminators, which managed to help him in the game. I also think he'd practiced for the game before, and he thought about the game a lot. So I think yeah, I think with I
very
think
well,
with
doesn't he?
yeah, I think with it's one of those armies which if you prepare against, you're definitely going to have more of a chance if you just go in there, and kind of
Yeah.
just wing it, because they will kind of just take apart your strategy very well. So I think basically the adjustments that Philip did was making sure that the 4 dragons, were deployed in a spot where like they're gonna like
Demon
protect an
Prince.
objective or something, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
if they're like
you
off
can't
the
raw
objective,
dog.
it's really bad.
Yeah, you can't raw dog the Legion the First Prince. You
No,
need to wear protection when you.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep,
definitely.
absolutely.
So what else have we got in these win weights, Stuart? I see quite an interesting one just below the First Prince there. You got Ogre tribes with a 60% win rate. What's going on there?
I have no idea, but
This happens a lot, right? With ogres.
yeah. Look, I think they're bad, but like I understand also
You
that their
keep
win
getting
rate is
proved
probably
wrong.
decent. Like
Yeah.
it's like in my head, I know they're bad, but like I also know that their win rate's going to be decent. Um, yeah, I'm still trying to negotiate those two things in my head, but I think basically, the one thing that they've got going for them is that they've got the best win rate in the game against Seraphon. Statistically, like they're the best army against Seraphon statistically. I don't know if that's going to change with Stormcast. I suspect it might, but yeah, I mean, in a tournament with a lot of Seraphon around, they're going to be handy. I don't think they're great against Stormcast, but they're probably better than Gargants, I would think, because you actually do some mortal wounds. Uh,
Well, they get to play the game. They're not all about standing still on objectives. They do it very well, but they're very good at, getting through screens and taking out your opponent's key threats and playing on the double and stuff like that. Um, Although I think one of the best performing um, Ogre tribes list was the old Underbellies list with the Lead Belchers and the
yeah,
Iron
I'll just
Blasters,
find
right?
him. Yeah, so he did go 3-1-2, which is not like it's not completely groundbreaking, but with the list, I feel like he's done really well. I still think, um, you know,
Soul Blind, right?
yeah, this list kind of. I mean, I like Bundo. You and I have always liked Bundo. I have a Bundo
No
painted,
fans.
which I have never brought to anything in real life, but I do actually have a painted Bundo.
I played with
Um,
them in real life the other day. It was good. It was fun.
Yeah, like I think he's good, and I mean, other than that, in this list, like
Except for two Foreman haters.
he's got some lead belchers and some iron blasters, and you sort of look at this and you sort of have no idea what's going on, but
Well, it honestly looked like he's got nothing in the list. You've got okay, you've got Frost Lord.
yeah.
Why is that Bundo not another Frost Lord? And you've got some.
Well,
Okay, that's it.
no, but I agree with that. I think the Bundo is better than the second Frost Lord, actually. Yeah,
You've always said this. You've always said
I
Frost
don't
Lord
like two Frost Lords. I
is a
really
dish
don't.
best served alone, right? Yeah, you
Yeah,
think he's
like he's really good when you can just chuck everything into him, but if he's got no buffs and his horns are hitting on fours, it's, he may as well be like two Bulgors at that point, like that's basically what his damage output falls down to. So,
although
uh,
two Bulgars are pretty good now
yeah,
because GW. But
yeah, but he's kind of a bizarre unit in that his damage range. I think he might have some of the biggest damage range in the game for a hero unit. Like he can literally do like 50 damage, or like with no buffs, he could even do like
yeah,
4. It's kind of
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
But you need to buff him up, and because of that, you need something else in your army that doesn't need buffs, and that's what Bundo's good for, because you get the reroll hits.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm relatively new to my IRL meta. I've recently joined a club. Shout out to Gitmob Club. What's it? Gitmob something or other. Gitmob Gaming in Newbury in the UK. But the Kragnos and two Stonehorn builds is one of the popular big bad lists
Oh God.
that's winning a lot of games in these friendly club matches. And we didn't have any of that at this tournament, but that's the thing, isn't it? I think it's being bought quite a lot at UK tournaments actually.
I think it's awful. Yeah, look, look, I just think with the Frost Lords, like if you so the Kragnos and the two Frost Lords list, I think it's literally like it's got to be like 50 wounds, right? Something like that. Like it's got to have like the lowest wound count of any army in the game. So any mortal wounds will just take
So
you off.
no, but
Like I think honestly, like 60 Sentinels can pretty much one bang your army. Like they get pretty close, I would think. Um, they definitely kill the two
people aren't
Frost
bringing
Lords.
60 Sentinels at a friendly club game. This is the thing.
Yeah, I know. But I think if you're gonna run that, the better version would be Bundo, a Stonehorn, and Kragnos. Um,
That sounds real fun.
and make sure that the hunter is the general, so you can bring him
Command
down.
points.
No. You take Blood Gullet and you bring him down with the 6-inch pile in anywhere you want. So you can definitely do like the three monster trucks go into something, and then the weakest of them kills like the ship one, and then maybe Kragnos and Bundo or something.
Kills the screen.
Yeah, one of them kills the screen, and then the other two pile in 6 and hit the thing behind it. Um, the problem is if your opponent is like
It's not
decent at the
even over,
game,
isn't it?
yeah, well, it's not Ogres. It's like what is it, like 1,200 points of other armies? Yeah. You can do I think you can do a similar army with Cruel Boys. That's pretty good, where you run Bundo, Kragnos, and the Sludge Raker, and then you can take the what's it called, the Marsh Crawler Sloggoth for the
For the
+1
buffs.
hit. Because I think
Yeah.
in my experience, like there are some situations where Kragnos hits on 4s, and if that ever happens, it's just the saddest thing ever. It's like it's just awful. Like hitting on 4s is just the worst thing ever. So having the +1 to hit in there. Obviously, if the problem with Bundo normally is if you put him in, you can't get any other allies. So you can't take like Bundo, Kragnos, and Marshcrawler, Sloggoth, and Gits, because that would be glorious. But you can't do that, unfortunately. Because I would definitely do that.
That's trying to just not play Gits.
Yeah, I mean, it would
That's
be
too
having
much.
1,400 points and not Gits, but yeah. I
Right,
mean, yeah. So
Stuart.
yeah.
I will bring us back on track because what we've been talking about is the list that we've pointed out. We talked about Nikita who won, but the list that we've been talking about are not the meta lists. These are the lists that have a bit of cool, bit of flavor, maybe from a different sub faction than you normally see, or from a battle tone that's lower in the rankings, bringing them to a tournament and trying to do well with them. Um, it's something that both me and you tried to do at this event. One of us succeeded, one of us didn't. It's something that one of the ones we talked about. I want to encourage more people to do that, and I
Mm.
want you to talk about why we think that this is a good thing that more people should do, and maybe why bringing dragons to a tournament and going 5-1 is all very well and good, but maybe
It's not well
going
and good.
3-3 with it, yeah, going 3-3 with a so-called shit list is more important than going 5-1 with dragons. Can we talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, I think the problem with bringing dragons, like 13 dragons to a list and going 5-1 is like, what happens when that army gets nerfed, or what happens if Games Workshop brings out a new, more powerful army? Like, what do you do with your army that you just spent hundreds of hours building and assembling and playing, right? Um, and painting. The thing is, when you take a list that you like the models of, you like how it plays, and there's some longevity to it. Like, you're not so much worried about the power of it in the meta. So when a new battle tome comes out, you don't have to sell um, the previous army. That's playing those sorts of lists is really good in the long term, I think. One thing I have to do cringe a little bit about is I have seen a lot of people selling Iron Jaws armies on Twitter, and I have sort of been thinking like, damn, like that's a quick turnaround, like. But that is kind of the trap you can get into if you always play the strongest armies is you buy the full army, and then like Iron Jaws now. I mean, I think probably our tournament's a bit of an
Very good
outlier,
army.
but if
Yeah.
you look at it, if you look at it, I mean, it's still 33%, right? I don't know how much of that is
That,
like noise, or I don't know how it's going to play out in the rest of the stats, but I think they're a lot weaker than they used to be. Certainly when they came out and they had 150 point Gore Grunters with Ren 2 and then the Amulet of Destiny Maw-Crush. So they've taken a huge hit since then, and they're definitely not like the same level as Stormcast. And
I
so
think they kind of came out neck and neck, and then they suddenly just went
yeah.
one went one went in the upper gear, and one kind of stalled. But
Well, there's just no
I still
depth to
think
the
they're
Iron Jaws
really
book,
strong.
but
I
there's
think
just
no,
no depth.
I think they're really strong. There's just no depth. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's
And
like
there's also
it's just
yeah,
peaks. Like there's not really anything going on in there. Brutes just don't work. The Ard Boys are okay, but they're better in Big War. Um, yeah, I just think that so a lot of people have decided to sell the army. Um, and a lot of people bought the army because it was strong. I just think if if you're always looking to bring the strongest list, I know this is Tabletop Simulator, but we're all hoping to play in real life. And, if you always bring in the strongest lists, it might be a quick turnaround. If you're okay with that, if you're okay with buying, a new army every 3 months and, maybe sending it to a commission painter or whatever, that's fine. You do you. But I think a lot of us want to buy an army and have it for a while and, kind of grow our strategies with it and play it against a lot of different armies and paint it up the way we kind of want to. So if you want to do that, then playing the sort of list that Luke and I and Soulblind and some other people have played in this tournament, where it's like, okay, I like this particular strategy with these models. I think you can go a long way with it, right?
and even if you don't go a long way with it, cough cough, um, it's I think it's a better way. Well, I'm not going to tell people how to hobby, but for me and a lot of other people I've talked to, it's like tends to be the way that the people I respect and admire the most tend to play the hobby. Is that the most politically correct way I could say that?
I think,
Don't know.
I mean, that while that's true, we also kind of need the people who are running the power list for our approach to even exist, right? Because like
I agree. I
part of
agree.
the fun
Because
is
we're the
like we run,
counterculture.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, we need the
being the
culture still,
counterculture, definitely.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
we still
definitely.
need the oppression, like I still want to play against dragons with Kragnos. Like it's an awful matchup, but I'm not going there thinking like, oh man, I hate playing against dragons. If only my opponent would bring I don't know, Flesh Eater Courts with a bunch of Crypt Horrors. Like, I'm not thinking that. That's not what's going through my head. So, um, obviously we still need the people to bring the powerful list. But I would just encourage people who are already bringing, the janky list to keep doing it. And maybe some people who are currently, over the Sith side of things when it comes to Age of Sigmar to maybe try something a little left of field, maybe just for a couple of tournaments, and then you can go back to playing dragons or whatever. But I just think that for me, the game where the game is the funnest is where I've come up with something. After testing it a few times, building a list, and then trying to work out how it works if it does, and then if it doesn't work, then going back to the drawing board, or if it doesn't work, then evaluating, okay, what could I have done differently that game. And if you ever get to the point where it's like, okay, I couldn't do anything differently in that game and I still would have lost, then you probably do need to go back to the drawing board with the list. But usually I've found there's always a way to win, even with the worst of armies. So you can always adjust your strategy, even if the list isn't quite there. Yeah.
So the most important thing to me, being a huge child, is the cool points. Being the coolest kid on the block, and you know, people don't care about you losers bringing you dragons. We don't care about that. The cool kids with the baggy trousers and the backwards cap are running those Slanesh and those Sylvaneth and those ogres and stuff. It's kind of my not so subtle point is I think it's cool and I want people to keep doing it. Thumbs up from Luke.
I think
Um,
I've been playing a lot locally in Japan recently, and I have to say
yeah, I started playing locally too.
the local meta, like, I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but from the Japanese people I played against, like they're just one faction. Like this is my faction, and their whole Twitter feed is like often just them like retweeting like pictures of their faction, saying like this faction's the best. Like it's like this whole thing of like like I know
Like
this is
that though. I kind of like the factions being like football teams rather than being tools
yeah
to use.
yeah
I think that's
I
kind of
love it.
cool.
Yeah, like there's this
Yeah,
one
I
Slaves
agree.
of Darkness guy who plays in my local club. He just loves Slaves of Darkness, and they're not in like the absolute best spot at the moment, but he just everything about it he loves them. There's a Slanesh player in my local who knows they're awful, but he just can't take himself away from them. I really like that spirit when it's in Warhammer. It's like, oh man, this army sucks, but like it's kind
This
of,
game.
it's kind of too late to get divorced, so we got to kind of stick it out. It's kind
My
of
last game in real life, Stuart, was a Nurgle player who really, really likes the mortal side of Nurgle. To a point where I'm not using my summoning points because I can't summon mortals and that's bullshit. And I was like, this guy's my hero. You know, we like that. It's a good way to play. Right, Stuart. Um, Release the Beast 2 was a great success. It was great fun. Um, Thanks for everyone who took part in the tournament. Um, we are pleased to announce that we've got another one coming your way very quickly, don't we, Stuart?
yeah. So actually the list submission and the team sign up is due next Friday, so the 25th, as time of recording. And then the tournament's going to start on the 28th, I believe. So we've got a little over a week. I think there's I can't remember how many teams. It's like 13 teams or something signed up right now of
Oh yeah,
six.
12 off the top of my head. Yeah,
So it's actually quite a lot. It's like 72
12 times
players or
6.
something.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's good.
So we've done well, but obviously anyone who wants to make a team and sign up, you can still do that until next week. The list submission will be via Google Forms, and I'll get that out this weekend. And basically, how the matchups will work is you'll do the matchups in PM with the team you're matched up against. So you message the captain, and then I'll also make a Google form where you can put in the matchups, and then we can get that sorted. In terms of how the actual event will run, there will be a tabletop TO to display the results. I'll enter in the results, but we had so many issues with tabletop in this tournament and the previous tournament that we won't actually use it to run the event in terms of points and stuff and the matchups. I'll write code to do that just because it's easier than doing it this way. Like every time we did the matchups in this tournament, we did it manually because
That was
we
a
just
pain.
couldn't. Yeah, we
Yeah.
just couldn't get the tournament points working. And yeah,
I
with the
think it's
team
our
tournament.
ineptitude rather than TTO. Because we love Tabletop TO. It's a great website, but we're too stupid to use it properly. I think we'd rather
Yeah.
just write code. Apparently,
Well, I mean, for me, that's just what I'm used to that more than doing this. So, it's actually just easier for me to write code than do this. But I also think even I don't know. I mean, I guess it wouldn't be that bad with the team event because we've only got like 12 teams, so the matchups. I mean, you could do it manually, be fine. Yeah, actually, we might just do it manually. I don't know. I'll sit down and work that out. But basically, there will be a TTO event, which will just be the teams. Yeah, and in terms of the player thing, I think we won't put that on TTO, and we'll just track that separately. I mean, there's no prizes in the tournament, but I do want to give like our best player award at the end of the tournament to the person who went like 6-0 with the best score. So we'll still put that in, but yeah. For now, there'll be a TTO event with all the teams on there, and it's a 6-round tournament. I know that there will be a quote-unquote, winner who went 5-0 by round 5. Actually, with this many teams, I think you'd even have it by round 4 pretty much. But the point of the 6 rounds is, this is partly a practice event for Worlds. And I just think more games is ultimately better than less games. I know people like kind of think you just play until you get the winner, but I mean, like even in this Release the Beast tournament, if we played another like 4 games, I think it'd still be fine. I don't necessarily subscribe to the fact that like once you get standings,
I would
looks like
disagree
this.
with you there personally, but
I think it would have been fine if we played like another 6 games. One of these days, Luke, I do want to get like I mean, it's never going to happen, but if we had like a year-long league, I think that would be hilarious. And you have like so basically you would have you'd have like drop-in periods where you have like, okay, so every 6 weeks you get to change your list, but like your score in the league would remain the same.
Transfer window. It's definitely called the transfer window, right?
Yeah, that's basically the way that would work. I don't think we've necessarily got interest in that, but I mean, I don't know, maybe once every 2 weeks and you do 25 games. I have no idea.
Any Football Manager fans out there want to play Warhammer Manager, the league, we can do it.
Well,
anyway,
maybe one day we'll get like a crypto sponsorship where we can do like betting on the games or something. Maybe that's the way forward. I don't know. Bet with your salt coin or something. We can make our own currency.
Yeah. Fuck. Okay, invest now. All right. Yeah. The good news, Stuart, about this team tournament coming up is that it's being hosted on the Release the Beast server, which is the coolest place in town. It's a very active Discord. We've got a great community here, and whilst you say you don't know, not sure how you're going to display the stuff yet, it will all be kicking off in the Discord. So make sure you get active in the chats. Make sure that if you're playing in the tournament, you look at the game summaries, you watch people's games, and potentially tune into us, the Miscast crew that are going to be covering some of that stuff as well. Isn't that right, Stuart?
Yep, absolutely. And there's some heavy hitters in this tournament, but also don't be
discouraged.
Is there not? There is. But don't be discouraged from bringing, if anyone wants to get together and create some silly meme team where you all bring like, I don't know, maybe you could go like all the destruction armies. I don't think you can quite do that because there's not 6 of them, but you could do like the destruction armies and then like carriage on overlords that have been bought or something. I don't know.
Maybe you should see what happens to Team TO, Stuart. Maybe Team TO have got something in the pipe works. Yeah, we don't know because you're not on that team because you're a traitor. But
and I will send a personal message of thanks to every team that does not bring Stormcast. Okay, that's my promise. I just send you one line thanks. That's gonna be it. But
I mean, to be fair, you've built this as well to practice.
Oh, and if people want to bring Stormcast, then great. And you're just not getting my thanks. that's
I think we're such hypocrites. We've just spent a whole episode talking about how bring shit lists and people that bring dragons are assholes and going 2 and 3 with Slanesh is more important. And then the tournament we're running is world practice where we want people to bring Legion the First Prince, Stormcast, Seraphon.
Well. But it's as we were saying though, like we still need to establish the culture so that people can have their own counterculture movements. So I'm encouraging the culture, we're keeping the oppression in there, but I'm also
The
encouraging
cancel
people.
culture.
Yeah, I'm also
Yeah.
going to give some government funding to pursue some careers in the arts. That's basically how it's working. Yeah.
I mean, in all serious though, if you are one of the players that isn't being on a super strong list, and you get the opportunity to test your medal against, I don't know, a Philip Cartier running his filthy cities list, um, take it as learning. That's a great experience. You'll get spanked, but it's going to be a spanking that we can all enjoy. Um, spanking is something that should be enjoyed, and learn from it as well. And the good thing is about a lot of these players that are bringing these nasty that are going to be bringing this nasty stuff is that they're all heroes in their own right, so it's still good. Don't think we're completely poo-pooing it. It's still good that these people exist, right?
Yep, and I would love if someone comes up with some like silly counter to dragons, which is like I don't know, 300 crit goals, and then brings that and beats dragons. That would just make my whole day. So if you got some
What
secret
we
tech
want.
that's not the
Yeah.
best thing ever, but maybe has a good matchup into like one of the top armies, then I would encourage you to bring that. Um, I think the team format sometimes we see
She
people
changes
just
the
take.
meta so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I think in the team format, like we see people just take 6 strong lists, but there is the potential to take 6 mega skew lists, like 9 Storm Fiends with Bridge, 300 crit goals. I would even love to see something which is just Soulblight Gravelords with Manfred and only Graveguard, which in my opinion should just spank the hell out of Legion of the First Prince. Um, Stuff like that,
Or
right? Which is clearly not a good army, but like it has a good matchup. I would encourage that for the reasons that we'd already talked about in this show, but also just TTS gives us some freedom in terms of the armies that we get to bring, and I'm not against that at all. I don't think that the real life Warhammer is some like holy grail. In the end, the rules of the game are to be played, and if there's something that's like a little bit janky and maybe isn't that possible in real life, I'm not against playing it on TTS. Yeah. So if you want to bring like 14 cockatrices, I'm totally down with that. It's fine. Yeah.
back, isn't it? That's going back to OG TTS days. Right. So my prediction for the 6 factions that are gonna the
Oh, yep.
copy and
Yep.
paste, the copy plus the factions.
Yep.
Stormcast, Seraphon, Legion the First Prince, Gargants, Cities of Sigmar, Beast of Chaos.
Basic
That's what I
KO.
predict.
Okay. I
Or
have some
or maybe
slight. I
Daughters
have
of
some.
Cain. Or
Okay.
Daughters of Cain.
I think
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
gonna be. I think it's gonna be. Stormcast, Cities, Soulblight, Legion of the First Prince.
Soulblight. How could I forget Soulblight? Yeah.
Legion of the First Prince.
Okay, not Bok. Soulblight. Yeah. Instead of
What are
Bok.
the other ones? You definitely
I said
gonna.
I said Gargants because they're great in team tournaments because some guys can't play against Gargants.
You're gonna
Or
see
battle
Iron
plan.
Jaws. I
If you,
think Iron Jaws will be in there. I think in
I'd
the
rather
teams
play
in the teams
Gargants.
that I've been on, the sixth slot is the awkward one. I think like LRL has the potential to be in there. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of
Doc.
things you could put in there. Doc, Beast of Chaos. I would even
Stuart.
consider
What the
putting
fuck
ogres
happened
in
to
there.
Zinch, man? What the fuck happened to Zinch? Where
Well,
are they? Because they're not.
well, it's just Legion of the First Prince, but worse, and uses all the same war scrolls. You can't have both of them. That's the problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could actually
Yeah.
run both of them if you just didn't run any pinks in Legion of the First Prince and just summon
But
them
then
in.
you
But
don't win any games.
it's just way
That's
worse,
the thing.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Shit.
Yep. We could run Blood Crushers and then do it. I don't know, but again, I would
Right.
invite people to bring Blood Crushers. Do it. It's great.
If you want to hear more of this nonsense, then please sign up for the Release the Teams, and what are we calling it?
I
Release
think
the
it's
Teams.
the Beast Within. I believe is is the name
The
of
Yeast Within.
the Yeast Within. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If you please sign up to this tournament if you can, or get involved with the Discord, and you can hear some more of this nonsense. Thank you very much for joining us for our inaugural episode of the Miscast, and we'll definitely be doing a few more of these. So thanks for joining us. Anything you want to say to the people, Stuart?
I just want to say, that for those of you who are interested in Beasts of Chaos, we Luke and I are going to do a video on them coming up soon because there are some interesting things to talk about, Luke. I'll just give a little bit of a spoiler that the Jabba's Life is a very hilariously strong unit. Um, and we'll talk about that in the show. But it's tremendous to be able to kill something by basically sending in like he's basically a suicide bomber. He's very funny. Yep.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What we're doing for the Bok episode is going to be Stuart tells Luke everything. Luke reacts blind,
Yeah,
and it's
Luke
going to be hilarious.
Luke reacts to
Yeah.
BC Chaos buffs. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, now we're a proper podcast. We do need stupid clickbait titles, right? So that's perfect. Right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks.